everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, Pete Wright. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
This is our last episode before we take a little break.
Yes.
I'm very excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm well practiced after our episode last week. I'm grounded and meditated and
ready to go.
Take my cooking class.
I know. I'm excited to hear about it when you come back.
I have even heard, just as in the matter of follow-up, my father-in-law actually has taken this very class, and he got out of it inspired to buy all new fancy knives. You know those ceramic, always sharp knives?
Yes.
I think new knives are in my future.
So am I going to have to call you like Chef Pete?
Dare to dream.
Okay, but this is even the bigger question, Mr. Wright.
Yeah.
You're going to be taking this cooking class, and then you're going to be coming home to your kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Did you get? How long did it take you to guess? Did you? You knew right because I screwed up.
You got to let me ask the question. Are you going to be able to cook on your stove?
Yes, I am.
Yay! With pliers?
This is no pliers required. This is the answer to my long tolerations nightmare. It is over. This week we executed on the toleration problem. I had to recap. I had no knobs. The knobs broke on my oven. And so we had been using pliers, and this is on the order of years to turn on the oven. Growing up on an old UHF TV set, use the pliers to change a channel for those who are old enough to remember. And then the oven just broke and only cooks at 10,000 degrees. So that's it. You turn it on and go straight to 10,000 degrees.
Which is not good for any kind of recipe.
No, it's tough. That's tough on food at that heat. And then, so we'd been living for nearly a year, I think, on a toaster oven for a family of 4 because this had become a toleration. It's just ridiculous that it had become a toleration.
So for people that are new to the show or maybe have no idea what we're talking about with tolerations, if you go back, I don't know what episode it is, but we talk about tolerations, and Pete definitely goes into great detail about this stove issue, even more detail than you just did.
I do. It's great detail. And so that had broken. And so, but then that doesn't end there. I mean, the other part of the toleration in my hashtag guess the toleration photo shoot on Twitter.
Yes.
Is that we also had another thing break this time last summer. We got back from our vacation and turned on our dishwasher, and the water had just stopped working. The pump stopped pumping water into the dishwasher. So since then, we've been hand washing our dishes, and we had a dead dishwasher.
And eating out of a toaster oven.
And eating out of a toaster oven. So for the whole family in the house. It was ridiculous. I mean, it's just ridiculous when you think about it. We just didn't have the momentum to go out and do it, and we were both busy, and we just never did it. And so we finally did it, and we got both in one day. We got both of our tolerations knocked out, and I am so happy about that. New dishwasher,
Fantastic.
New stove, and the dishwasher is great. It even has the Piranha in it. It's got a disposal in it, so you don't even really have to rinse the dishes all that hard.
That's right.
It'll
awesome.
chew up stuff. They said no bone.
No bones.
So
that's a good rule.
No idea.
Anyway.
No, don't get any ideas.
Yeah. Well, with your guess what my toleration was, because yes, if you go into Twitter and go past, Pete decided to give me a riddle this morning, and I was cracking up. I did guess it in the first riddle. The reason though, I think, is because I'm a puzzle person. I like puzzles. I like figuring things out. And so the first photo that you gave me, it kind of looked like a stove, it looked like a stovetop. So, and knowing you and your tolerations, I figured it out. Now, if you had given me the last 2 photos, I don't think I would have figured it out.
No, it was me. This is on me in the wrong order.
Yeah, wrong order. But congratulations.
Thank you. I'm awesome. Very pleased. So, it's funny. I really like that hashtag guess the toleration. And if you have tolerations you've been dealing with, send us photos. Hashtag guess the toleration, because we would love to try and see what your tolerations are really close up. See if you can stump each other. That's fun.
Kind of a fun game.
Yeah, fun game. All right. So that's not what we're talking about today, though.
No.
What are we talking about today?
Well, today I had not today, but earlier in the week, I had a question asked of me. Mm-hmm. And it was such a great question. I asked her if it was okay if I shared it on the podcast, and she said, absolutely, share. So that's what I want to do. And it's about organizing.
I mean, it gets to a question that we actually opened 2 weeks ago. We even titled the show Organizing Just Enough. And I don't think we ever specifically said, what is organizing just enough? And I think your group member actually asks the question specifically. Here you go. To help me through this. What is just enough? So go ahead. And why don't you share the email and then we'll
yes. And this is somebody that's in one of my group coaching groups. And what her question is on my quest to get organized, I think I may set myself up for an unrealistic expectation. I expect that once I reach the nirvana state, known as organized, and both of those words, nirvana and organized, are quoted, then I will always be on top of my game and rarely screw up, get behind, forget, stray, etc. Right now, I think I spend 80% of my time fumbling around in chaos and 20% of the time organized and in control. I'd like to flip those numbers or even be on top of my game 90% of the time and let human failing fall into the 10% range, which I have to say I personally, Nikki Kinzer, I do not believe that it's human failing. So
I agree with you there.
Throw that in there.
Peter Wright, agree with you, Nikki Kinzer.
It is not about failing, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
So her two questions are this. One, in your best estimation or opinion, what percentages would a highly organized person have? Someone like you, an expert, someone who has done a lot of work in this area. Two, what percentages do you think the average person has? Someone who doesn't have ADHD maybe has a passing interest in becoming more organized, but never felt strongly compelled to improve because they feel like things are pretty good. Wondering what standard I should be striving for. What is realistic? Thanks.
Such a great set of questions. And
it is.
Oh my goodness. There are two things that jump out at me. First of all, you already said it, that the thing about human failing. I want to hear more about what you have to say there. Second is nirvana state. Even when I'm at my very, very best, I would never call it nirvana because it's a thing that you never, there's no end to it. You never actually reach the end. Like, it's not like a goal that I'm going to get organized and then be finished.
Well, and that's a really good point because I bring this up. We've talked about this in past shows, and I bring it up in the guided presentation on organizing your space your way. Is that it's just like cleaning your house. If you can't expect to clean your house once and think that it's going to always stay that way, and it's really the same thing with organizing. You have to continue to really daily pay attention, take action. Put things back. I mean, there's just a lot more steps almost with organizing than even cleaning. So absolutely. I think it's an ongoing process. The piece with the failing part, when I read that, I think that it isn't anything to do with us personally. Our spaces get unorganized because they just do. Things happen, life happens. We get busy, we get distracted, and I don't think it really has anything to do with really who the person is. It's just sort of what happens. And so, that would be the first thing, it's not about failing. It's just what it is. It is just what it is. And,
I like to think of it this way. It's not about human failing. It's about entropy. Think about it this way. When you say it's not like you're just going to clean your house and expect it to stay clean, the first thing that hit me was, well, maybe you could expect it if you were going to clean your house and then leave and not live there. But then I thought, not even then. That's not even a good example. Dust, it gets dirty. It decays. It settles, and you still have to clean it. And so I think there is no reasonable expectation that at any point you're going to be able to be finished with this process. It's a matter of finding comfort in the journey.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's comfort in the journey. And, a couple of things I want to point out. The reason that I named the organizing guided presentation, Organize Your Space Your Way, is because it is specific to ADHD. And I really feel that people have to consider their ADHD and really consider what their definition of organization is. Not anybody else's, but theirs. And that's really how I answer this question, is I think it depends on the person. I don't know if there's an average, because I really think everybody's different. Everybody's tolerance level of what they can kind of stand is different. Their definition of organization is different. And so, in the guided presentation, I talk about what is good enough and what is the definition, what is your definition of organization? And really to answer her first question about myself, I think that when I lived by myself, and this kind of goes to your point about, well, what if you clean your house and leave? When I lived by myself, I would say probably 90% of the time I was pretty organized, and 10% of the time I was looking for stuff. And this was, this is an easy thing for me to say because I lived in a small place. It was just me. I am an organized person by nature. This was before I ever was a professional organizer. It came naturally to me. I didn't keep a lot. So I could find things when I needed them. And that is still today my definition of organization. Can you find what you need when you need it? Now, for somebody who has a type A personality that has maybe some OCD tendencies, their percentage is probably more like a 90-10 as well. It comes very natural to them, and that's just how they live. There is no right or wrong in that. It's just that tolerance of what you can stand. When does it get to be too much that you have to do something about it?
Well, that's right. I mean, the first thing that strikes me is the people I know who are type A with OCD tendencies, they are super organized and not very happy. They're super stressed out. They're constantly going. It's like their engine is always revving in the red line. And that, I think, is a challenge. And that's when, they need help, and they recognize they need help, and sometimes they choose to take it and sometimes they don't.
Right.
So there is a cost that comes with kind of where you're revving your engine.
And it's kind of on a different spectrum, right? You've got somebody who's really unorganized and unhappy and living in chaos. And then maybe you have somebody that is paying too much attention. And I mean, there's just, I don't know, there's a lot going on there. So I think balance is probably key here. I did go on to also say that I think that your organization, or I actually didn't reply this to her, but just to reply this to you and to our listeners, your organization is going to change really depending on where you are in life. So like I said, for me living by myself, it was pretty easy. Now, when I got married, I'm combining households with another human being who has, just as much stuff as I do, and our organization patterns or skills are different. And so love him, but I would say that he's probably looking for more stuff than I am. And that's okay.
It's great that you go from like being really delicate about how you phrase the relationship and where you are to being just not really delicate at all.
It is what it is. I mean, I help him find his keys, and it's all good. But I would say when it was just still my husband and I, even then, I would say 80% of the time we were still in a pretty organized state of household, with 20% looking for stuff. And back in the day, I was notorious for, company's coming over, I'm going to throw things in drawers.
Okay. Yeah.
Very notorious for that. And so my husband knew that about me, and he's like, okay, so what did you do with this? What drawer is it in? I'm like, we'll have to find that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the kicker. And this is again where I want to go back to, I don't think it's about anything that we failed to do. When you bring children in the mix, it's a game changer of what your definition of organization is probably going to be. I could say now, comfortably, I would be 60 to 70% of the time I feel pretty organized. The other part, it's not so much that I don't know where things are. It's just that the items don't always get placed back in their homes. And it gets messy and it gets disorderly. So I'm thinking of like my daughter's room, the playroom, our garage. Oh gosh, don't get me started on that. Yeah. There's certain areas in my home that are definitely a much lower percentage that I just need to start paying attention to. So, I think the more people, the more stuff you put in, the harder it is, to get those percentages, quite to where you would want them to be. But that's the whole point of what this guided presentation is, and what I was telling her is that I really feel like once you go through the process of getting organized and you pick a space and you sort through it and you assign, homes for your things, it really doesn't, it's not as bad when things start to get into disorder, because you've already taken those initial steps to organize it in the first place. So when you backslide, which is going to happen no matter what, it's not as hard to get things back in order, if that makes sense. going back to the percentages and kind of where should she be, I think it's really just a comfort level. What are you comfortable with? What is your tolerance? When do you shift from being out of control to really feeling back in control of your space? Which doesn't mean it has to be perfect. It doesn't mean that it doesn't allow any kind of mess. It's just what is comfortable for you. I did tell her, and this is really why I'm so passionate about teaching about organization, is my hope for her and for anyone who works with me can find that happy medium. What is good enough? What does that look like to have peace? And again, it has nothing to do with perfection or having this home that needs to look like it needs to be on a magazine.
Yeah, and I think you really put a good point to that, which is you have to get to know your triggers. When do you feel triggered that you are moving into a state of disorganization, right? And so that it doesn't creep up on you. And that's one of the things that I find I deal with all the time, which is even if my office is pretty organized, and you ask me if I can find what I need when I need it, the answer is yes. I mean, I generally can. I don't find myself standing in my office looking around for stuff.
Right.
But I do find that sort of cognitive disorganization when I find I start getting a little bit behind on email, or I haven't scheduled my work times in my calendar, and I have too many documents on my desktop that I've been working on, and I haven't gone through and filed them in the right places. Suddenly I'll start to forget where the work is that I was working on. So my disorganization comes either in my head or in my digital workspace, which is, for me, where I spend most of my time. Have I uploaded all the right podcast files? Have I, are these designs done for this client? If I get stopped in progress on too many projects, that's when I can start to trip up. And so that is a trigger for me. Like when I look at my desktop and see more than 15 documents on there, I know that's a trigger now. That's a sign that I need to book time with myself on my calendar in order to get back to balance, like you said, to find that 80-20.
Yeah. Because I don't think it's ever perfect all the time. And like we were saying at the beginning of the show, I don't think it's an ongoing process that you constantly have to pay attention to. And the last thing that I left with her is, I think it's really easy for us to set these high expectations of what it means to be organized, what it means to be, on top of our game. And then when we don't meet those expectations, again, we feel like we failed, and it's just not that way. We're doing the best we can. And are we paying attention to the things that really matter? Do your children know you love them? Do they know they're cared for? Are they paid attention to? Those are the kinds of things that they're going to remember that are much more important than how clean or organized your house was. And I'm not saying it's not important, but again, I just want to, really hit on what is the balance, and be kind to yourself. And give yourself the same grace that you would give your best friend or somebody you loved, because you are your worst critic. We're just doing the best we can.
We really are. And I think you put a good point. I mean, give yourself the freedom from the language of failure.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
It's you're not reaching a holy place, and you are not a failure.
Yeah. And, and again, going back to that transition, things are going to change again, and your organization's going to have to change with it. As kids get older, they have different needs. And as they leave the house, then you're back to an empty nest. What's that going to look like? I mean, there's just always these transitions that are constantly happening in our lives. And I think we forget that, the organization kind of, goes with that too. It's just easy to not pay attention to. But
exactly.
So yeah, that's my whole point. Do it your way. Do it to what is comfortable for you, and don't worry about what anybody else thinks.
Don't worry, and don't especially use the next 2 weeks. We're going to be on vacation.
Yes.
So use the next 2 weeks to practice.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
That's right. And if you like what I said here and this resonates with you, then I also encourage you to please check out those guided presentations. We have the Organizing Your Way and also the paper solution as well. Great
frameworks for getting started and potentially experiencing coaching for the first time if you've never thought about it. Take a look at the website. Right. It's all there. Take Control ADHD. And thank you, everybody, for listening. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks. We're going to be back talking about money on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.